Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Peeping Ballers. And look who's back, Moondog himself. Viewers loved him. If you don't know who he is, guys, he is the premier authority in South Korea when it comes to tactical analysis in football and also just analysis when it comes to the KNT and K League. Moondog, a lot has happened since we last talked. How are you feeling these days?
Upcoming. It was upcoming. Since the
Yeah.
last time we was talking, I think we knew like something like this was gonna happen. And I just wanna say, the Klinsmann has been the worst manager of the history. Not just the South Korean team. I think just in history. He's gotta be the one of the worst coaches ever.
Moondog, we'll give you a chance to talk about Klinsmann later on.
Yep.
Very quickly, the Lee Gang-in, Son Heung-min saga. At Bibbing Ballers, we've always maintained that these types of altercations happen,
Mm,
especially in a tension-packed tournament where, like you
mm,
said, there's no rules, there's no organization, there's no
mm,
structure in Klinsmann's national team. Players make mistakes, and of course, they need to face the consequences of their actions. But there seems to be way too much attention on this topic right now, and we aren't talking enough about how
mm.
rotten the KFA led by Chung Mong-gyu is. I think we should be pushing for systemic change in the KFA and not arguing amongst ourselves about who's right between Lee Gang-in or Son Heung-min. I mean, very quickly, Moondog, what are your thoughts on what happened between those two players, and how should we and the Korean football community move forward?
It happens a lot in football training ground or in the football what do you call it in the environment because everyone wants to win, everyone wants to fight. So it shows that we have good characters, to be honest. That's my opinion. But looking into Korean culture, I think end of the day, Lee was the young player coming up. So when the elder people say something about it, then they should listen, to be honest, in my opinion. But having that character was okay. And I think the fans was just talking too much, but that was happening because of the KFA suddenly said, yeah, that's right to the Sun's newspaper, and I think that caused a lot of the problems, made our fans to fight among the fans, like Lee's fans fighting for him, Son's fans fighting for him. And I just think like today they both posted a new Instagram post. And I think the last time when Lee posted a story, I couldn't really feel like how do you call it? The 사과문 in English. I forgot.
The
Uh
sincerity from his apology?
yeah, I couldn't really feel the apology from him because it was a story and you could just go in 24 hours and he didn't really like go to him and he called Son Heung-min as a like Son Heung-min Hyung, not like Heung-min Hyung, Like it feels they're so far away. But this time he actually went to England and said sorry to him and said sorry to the older elder people by calling them. And I could really feel that he's learning from it. So and Son posted what do you call it, Instagram too, covering the young player. So I think we should just move on, not talk about it anymore, because now it's clear. Now it's clear they're fine with each other. So now we have to move on to KFA, not focusing on the players.
I mean, well put. It's time for us to focus on bigger things. We have two qualifiers coming up in March, home and away against Thailand, who have improved a lot, by the way. So if we don't focus on that, there's a real possibility we lose one of those games. And I think Moondog is absolutely right. And speaking of moving on, then, gentlemen, let's talk about moving on to the KFA. So Jurgen Klinsmann is gone. That much we know. His staff is gone. They've been paid out. And we
Yeah.
have a new technical committee that's been appointed. I feel like this isn't being talked about as much as it
Mm.
should.
Yeah.
Again, this top-down approach is what's so frustrating. It's basically Chung Mong-gyu and his yes men doing whatever they want. I mean, firstly, we know that the top of this committee, I believe, is being led by Chung Hae-sung. Correct me if
Yeah.
I'm wrong, Moondog, but he is a former player back from the 90s and early 2000s. I believe the last time he worked in football was in Vietnam back in 2020 before the pandemic. So that
Mm.
raises a bit of a red flag there. Now, I mean, firstly, what are your thoughts about how the association has handled this firing? And secondly, what do you think about this new technical committee led by Mr. Chung?
Firstly, I don't really understand why they hired Michael Miller as the technical director when he's a specialist in the youth system, And then suddenly, because Klinsmann was doing wrong, and he was listening. The president was listening to the crowd. Basically, if you're president of some company, you should have your own thoughts, and you should have the philosophy to carry on, even the media isn't happy about you, because that's what president is about. You should have your self belief, but just because fans didn't want the coach, he replaced it. So he's listening to the media now, and I think it's a big problem, because every time, the next time, if fans shake him again, he's gonna shake. So if the building starts to shake, it's gonna collapse. I don't really want to say much about the new technical director, because he hasn't done anything yet, and I hope he does it well. I hope he actually do it like Kim Pang-gon. But in my opinion, the way they processed it, the way they fired him so quickly and then announced straight away, and within the within the group, if you look at the members, they're all working in K leagues, women's K league, well, in university, all these kind of people are in the members, and they'll be so busy doing their own work, so they cannot really focus on a KFA, you know. So I think that's the first step they should change. When they're hiring people as a member of the staff, they should be only focusing on the KFA and thinking about how to improve the national team, or how to improve the system of the national team. But they all have their own jobs, and this is like the part-time job for them. So how can we make something good with bunch of people being part-timed? So I think that's the first step the chairman should change, in my opinion.
That's been a problem, honestly, for a long time. I feel like a lot of these technical committees, it's a part-time job. You know, even in the last one, there were so many coaches that are currently coaches in the K League. We've heard reports that they haven't been getting any sort of technical report or summary from the Asian Cup. They don't meet as often as they should. I think this is a recurring problem. And to me, it's really concerning that these mistakes aren't getting fixed. We're in a really, really dark era of Korean football right now, I feel like. And I think a lot of it is because of Chung Mong-gyu and his incompetence as the KFA president. Like you said, Moondog, there's no vision, there's no plan, no process, and no transparency either. In your opinion, Moondog, is there any hope for Korean football's future with Chung Mong-gyu as the president? Or do we have to hope that Chung does not get reelected for the fourth time next year?
But there's nobody else competing for the election, so he's the one who's gonna continue. As long as he's walking on the street and going downhill and downhill and downhill, because what is the last thing as a KFA can do? The worst thing they could do is using players as a protection, you know, because that's our furniture, that's our players, that's our like diamonds, you know. And he literally put it out on the street, get our best players get hammered by the fans. So I think our football has gone to the worst. I think it's the worst time in KFA history, maybe one of the worst times.
Well, if you listen to Chung Mong-gyu's press conference after firing Klinsmann, you kind of heard him dodging a lot of the questions about whether he was going to take responsibility, whether he was going to resign. If, hypothetically speaking, though, if you could pick somebody to run this association, do you have someone else in mind, in your opinion, you would put at the top to take over from Chung Mong-gyu, or maybe the HTC group? Because the problem is, I think that it's been this control has been circulated with one family, right? I think Chung Mong-gyu's cousin was the previous president of the KFA.
I think it's something like it was another Jung, yeah.
Don't you think that's problematic for any association to be controlled by one family?
Yeah, it feels like North Korea, you know. It's just going on and on and on and on, you know, same problem, different names. But I don't know, like, I think nobody's going for it. Like, nobody wants this job. So that's the big problem for KFA, because except their family, nobody wants to take the job, you know. And everyone is maybe they could be scared to take the job, or maybe they don't want to use their money or something like that. But sometimes I feel this way. If we didn't have them, maybe it could go worse because there's no one who wants to spend money on football, you know? So, like Hyundai, they have two K League teams and their owner, like Busan iPark too. So they're actually putting a lot of the money into the K League and a lot of the money into KFA. But I'm just thinking in this way. So you spend so much money on something, why wouldn't you want to make it worth it? Like you put so much effort, you put so much money in, and then you get criticized by all the fans in South Korea. Does he not want to work better and maybe get some praise? It's like something I really want to know, you know? You saw his press conference, he came out onto the media and he almost cried. Don't you want to get some praise after using that much money? Like, why doesn't he want to change now? Like, okay, for the past, he's done bad. Okay, let it be. But now, after all these press conferences, why are we going back to the same system again and again and again? All the respect to the Chung Hae-sung, because I don't know what he's going to do. After what he do, maybe I can analyze him again and I can talk about it again. But I don't want to talk about someone who hasn't done anything yet. That was my stand to the Klinsmann when he first came to the South Korean team, because you never know, he might have changed. But as you've seen what Klinsmann did to our team, for human to change is really hard. So I don't see any future in Korean football, to be honest, because I was looking at the list. Nobody wants to take on this job. I was looking into the rule books. What do I have to do to become a participant of the chairman against the Jung Mong-gyu? But there are so many restrictions, I cannot apply for it. So
Be a billionaire? Yeah.
yeah, be a billionaire, maybe, yes.
You mentioned Klinsmann, Moondog. We promised you we'd give you the opportunity to vent about how he was the most awful manager, not in Korean national team history, but maybe football history. We saw, in his press conference, Chung Mong-gyu basically lied to the Korean fans and said
That's
Klinsmann
crazy.
was selected based on the same process that Bentu was selected. And then just days later, you see Klinsmann saying, oh no, I actually wanted to manage the Korean national team and I proposed it as a joke. And then Chung took it seriously. And then a few months later, Klinsmann was the manager of the Korean national team. You also see his assistant manager, Andy Herzog. He was slandering Lee Gang-in and Son Heung-min in the Austrian media, saying those two players were the reason why we didn't win the semifinal match against Jordan. I mean, it's like a disaster, catastrophe everywhere in that coaching setup. Now's your chance to vent, Moondog. What are your final thoughts on Klinsmann and the coaching staff he brought to Korea?
This is why the Korean comedy show corrupted, you know? This is why Korean comedy show Keigo Concert stopped filming. Look at it. How funny is it? Like, it's just dumb and dumbers, you know? So our chairman is protecting the Klinsmann until the last minute. And then Klinsmann leaves the country. He's drinking coffee in America. And then he suddenly slaps back his forward, you know? I just cannot understand. Because chairman saw Klinsmann for a long time, right? Long periods of time. Then if you know someone for a long period of time, you should know what kind of person the opposition person is, you know? I don't know why he was lying about we took exactly same process as Bentu hiring, you know? And Klinsmann just came up behind him and said, oh, you sacked me and now I don't need you. Okay, fuck you. And then he's just giving an, I just lied about joining as a head coach. I was joking around and chairman took it seriously. For him, for Klinsmann, why would he even say that, you know? That's basically just like showing the world, I'm useless manager. I'm a not good coach. I joke around trying to be a coach. And I took on the job and look what I did. I went to the semi-final, 13 games unbeaten. I've never seen someone, the head coach, leaves the team on the social media twice in a row. So first was Facebook Live, second was Instagram post, and then he was so quick about unfollowing our national team Instagram. And I don't know what's next. Maybe Thread or maybe Twitter now. So he's got to do his hat trick. And his assistant coach, Herzog, I want to choke him, you know. I really want to choke this guy. I can't understand why in the earth he would come out suddenly writing a blog about it was the players' problem. They're leaders. They're supposed to be leading the team. They're supposed to be helping the team. They should be the one if the players getting criticized, they should come out and say it was my fault. It was our fault not being able to help the players like commit together, you know? And just you can see as how they left the team. Like Jurgen Klopp said, it's not all about how I entering the team. It's all about how are we leaving the team. And we could see how Jurgen Klopp is leaving the team so well. You know, everyone wants him to stay. Everyone is praising him. But Klinsmann, the way he leaves the team shows what kind of person he is.
I think con man is the best way to put it. And we've seen it with Klinsmann when he was the U.S. manager. He said to reporters in Brazil after making out of the group stage, yeah, book your tickets for the final. I guarantee it. We'll be there. It's the same thing he said to us. He's like, judge me by the Asian Cup. Trust me, we'll get it done. And look what happens. He's just a snake oil salesman who came in. In my opinion, I think you agree with this, Moondog. He just stole money from the KFA, and then he went back to California, and now he gets a nice fat retirement fee. But I think we're all glad that he's gone. Moondog, you nailed it on the head. He and Herzog can buzz off to wherever and never come back. And the thing is, now we have to move forward. And as we talked about, we have a new technical committee. And I think Jason has mentioned this before on our channel. It looks like we're going domestic, right? And I think Jason made a good point when he said that the domestic options, the good ones at least, maybe a Kim Gi-dong, a Kim Ak-bom, or a Hong Myung-bo, they have jobs right now in the K-League. And I think it'd be very disrespectful if we asked their clubs to release them, especially I think about 10, 11 days before the K-League starts. The first match day is coming up. So for our country's football to develop, we need the domestic league to be strong. And taking a really good manager from a top K-League team is not going to do that. So, Moondog, if the KFA is considering a domestic manager who's not working right now, we're looking at guys like Park Hang-seo, Choi Young-soo, Hwang Sun-hong, who managed the U23 teams at the Asian Games. Personally, and I think a lot of people agree, I don't know if there's a good unemployed Korean manager right now to take over. Moondog, what do you think about the KFA favoring a domestic Korean manager? Personally, I think the only reason they want a Korean is because it's going to be cheap, because they're broke after they fired Klinsmann. I believe the buyout fee was at least $5 million. Moondog, is there a candidate you want to take over as the national team manager, whether that's as interim or as full-time?
I don't think the domestic manager is ready. I can't really list up anyone, but I think they will probably go with Choi Young-soo because Hwang Sun-hong, you're like, he's got to prepare for Olympics. He's got to prepare for under 23 Asian Cup in April. And by hiring Hwang Sun-hong to become the head coach for the Thailand Games and maybe like he to become a head coach for the Korean national team, that's killing our under 23s. He's been preparing for the Olympics for a long time. He's been preparing for the Asian Cup under 23s for a long time. And by bringing him to this position, we're killing our youth system. So we're killing another team. So I think we should let him stay in where he is, try to focus on Olympics because that was a long project too. So I can't see Hwang Sun-hong as one of the candidates. And Park Hang-seo, with all the respect what he did in Vietnam, I think it was only be able to work because it was Vietnam. I don't think he will have enough. It might sound because I'm not really disrespecting him. I really respect what he did in Vietnam, but I don't think he's ready for the Korean national team, to be honest. So if we look at another candidate, we're just left over with Choi Young-soo. They will be choosing him because he was a former national player. He played in 2002 World Cup. He's managing K-League, and he did get fired a few times, but he did make some good points in K-League too. So I think he's the only option. Yeah. But for me, if I was the committee and if I was one of the technical directors, I will maybe approach Tajikistan's head coach because he left the country. That's a realistic option. We're talking about how Koku wants to come to this team, how Steve Bruce wants to come to this team. They just heard from Klinsmann, South Korean national team is a jackpot. I work for 1 year, I get a beggar, So I don't want nobody. I want foreign managers to come. But by looking at this process, we don't have enough time because we only have 7 days left. How are they going to make meetings with foreign coaches, talk about our philosophy, talk about their philosophy? But we don't have our philosophy, so there's nothing to talk about, to be honest.
Why are we rushing this process, Moondog? Like you said, we don't even know what our philosophy, what our identity is. We don't know
Mm,
when people think about Korean football, what do they want us, what do we want the world to know us as?
mm,
And if you ask anyone that, we don't know the answer. But
mm,
we are rushing things. We want to appoint a new manager, I think next week.
mm,
And for ease, they're leaning towards a domestic manager. But why aren't they taking the time? Why isn't a guy like Chung Ye-sung or anybody in the technical committee saying, "Wait, hold up. Let's go through a series of meetings. Let's hire
mm,
an interim manager for March.
mm,
Let's really, really sit down and through a series of meetings come up with our vision and the way we want to move forward so that we don't repeat our mistakes, so that we don't
mm.
hire another Klinsmann, and so we can get our national team back on track." Why do you think the KFA are rushing things?
I think we do not have a specialist like on technical director committee, you know. Nobody in Korea is built to become a technical director. Before we should try to look to find the forum head coach. We should try to look to find a coordinator or technical director who's actually really good at managing FAs, you know, who has good experience of hiring coaches, maybe hiring the systems, making the systems. But we don't really have a good technical director. That's the first thing. And Kim Pan-gon maybe was the best technical director we ever had. And secondly, I think they are hiring the head coach quickly because they need someone to be in front, you know? Because if they don't hire any coach, Jong Mong-gyu will be getting the shots from the fans all the time. Players will be getting the shots all the time, you know? He's put out Klinsmann as one of the first shield. Now, second was the media, like the players. The third was the coaching staff, whatever. But now it's all finished. Since the Lee Gang-in posted up his like apology and Son Heung-min said it's okay, I think the player part is gone now. So they need someone else to now take the bullets.
So if you were in charge, I think what you're saying is you would like an interim for the March qualifiers against Thailand, and then take our time in the summer and in the late spring to find a more full-time foreign manager. Is that what you're saying, Mindog?
Yeah, if I was the technical director, I would just go with maybe Chaduri to just let's just stay until the Thailand game because he was I think contracted until the Asian Cup, and he's the one who's actually been there with the players, you know, and he has a good experience with playing football, or he has good experience with the players, you know. So just asking him to do one more month, maybe, to continue as a Thailand game as a interim head coach, then they have enough time. They don't have to go for any other coaches. They don't have to look to like Choi Young-soo or someone else, or they don't have to look at K-League coaches because what's wrong for them? Like if there's someone comes in as a head coach, interim head coach, they lose the game against Thailand, we're losing another coach. You know, another coach is getting criticized for nothing. They should maybe ask Chadri to just continue for the Thailand game.
You know, Paulo Bento had a very particular style that he would like to play, right? Build out from the back, ball at your feet, nice 1-2 passes at the top of the box. What kind of style do you want to see managing South Korea? Do you want to see a counterattack, back three, or do you want to see a crazy press like a Hansi Flick would do at Bayern? What kind of philosophy would you want to implement into this KNT as we look forward to the 2026 World Cup? Because I want to remind people this World Cup might be even more important than the one in Qatar because it's going to be the first one that's expanded to 48 teams. But most importantly, it's going to be taking place in North America, where there's a lot of Korean expats living there, and we have an
Mhm.
opportunity to make more fans for another generation. So, Moondog, what's the coach we need to present a good face to the world?
I don't know what style is good for us, to be honest. Been to show that we can play or build a football, but it's totally gone after 1 year. We couldn't make 5 passes between them against Jordan, or maybe against Australia, maybe against Saudi Arabia. We couldn't really pass a ball. I can't remember one pattern that we built it up from the goalkeeper to get a shot away. So for all the 4 years we did, it's gone. So I don't care whoever becomes our coach, head coach. All I want to see is that I want to see a color, whether he's a specialist in pressing, whether he's a specialist on just making a defensive block and counter attacking, or maybe he gets the big man out front as a 4-4-2 and just lump the ball and head the ball down and we look for the second ball. Don't matter which style. I want to see someone who has a clear style of play that he wants to commit to this team. And despite of the fans maybe saying, "Oh, we're not here to play this kind of football with these players," leaders should not get shaked. If you think it's right to do, like Paulo Bento did, I think we should hire someone who would get not shaked by the fans. Not someone who would not care about the fans' opinion. Like they should listen, but they should not care so much about it. So I just want someone who is really stable. I want someone who has the color to make something into our national team. But for looking at our players, because next World Cup, can Son play? I don't know. I don't really know. Our defenders so old. They all gotta change. So this is now time for next generation now. Kim Young-won, I don't think he can go to the next World Cup. Kim Tae-won, I don't think he can go to the next World Cup. Kim Jin-soo, I don't think he can go to the next World Cup. That's maybe Jo Yeon-woo and Kim Seung-kyu. I don't know if they will be able to go. They're quite old too. And maybe with one sad injury, they're out of the tournament, And Park Kyung-woo, I think he's getting old now too. And he performed one of the worst performances of the tournament, in my opinion. Son, I don't know whether he will continue until the World Cup because that's still another 3 years left. So our group is getting old. So in my opinion, I don't know what system will suit us, because if we still had Son and the defenders we had, I might talk about maybe make us low block and counterattack. If I'm looking at the players, they might leave the team. I don't know what system we could play. It has to be based on maybe having a number 10 as Kang In Lee, and maybe as Hwang Hee-chan have to be one of the main players. But I don't really know. Because in Asian Cup we should see a taste what young generations are coming up, but we didn't really see anything. So
What you're saying is, regardless of the name, you want to see a strong, charismatic manager, one who won't get swayed by the opinions of the KFA, one who has a clear style in terms of their football philosophy, and one who is unafraid to lead the sedaegyoche, or the change between the old players and the new players. I don't think it's going to be likely based on the history that the KFA has shown us in terms of their hiring managers, but we can always hope. In terms of your career as manager, Moondog, I know that you recently got an interview for a K3 club, so congratulations on that. Before we end off this video, Moondog, do you have any updates for our viewers in terms of what you're doing these days?
Well, I'm still doing my YouTube, and I'm talking to 2 clubs in Malaysia. So I'm still speaking to them. I don't know what will happen, but I'm still waiting for the calls. And I'm speaking to one of the chairmen in South Korea who wants to try to make a K4 league team with me. So me as a head coach, he wants to build an empire, and he wants to do whatever we want to do with that club. So that's really exciting project, but I don't know whether I still have the energy to start from building up the team. It's really hard process. So I'm considering on that too. And lastly, I've met someone, and he asked me to become an assistant coach for the pro team when he goes as a head coach. So I have 3 options, whether it's Malaysia, whether starting from the low division here, or maybe waiting until this head coach gets the job and I become an assistant coach for a pro league. So I have 3 options. I'm just waiting. I get just getting so much headache. I don't know what to choose. So I'm just waiting, yeah.
Well, whatever you choose to do, we'll be rooting for you. I think it's fantastic that these doors are opening up because, as Jason and I have said, we need more people like you, progressive thinking Koreans, to change the system, because without people like you or us, nothing's ever going to change, and we have to keep trying.
The last word I want to say is that because of the 회장님, I think
Go
our
ahead.
football's finished. I don't see any future. It's sad. It's really sad. The way they did everything, I think it's finished.
All right, Jason, anything else?
Honestly, I agree with Moondog, but the one light of hope that I'm holding on to is just in general in Korean society, I feel like when our backs are against the wall, when it feels like, there's no way to go forward, I feel like that's when Koreans, there's always someone or society in general, we get together and we find a way to bounce back. And I
Hmm.
hope that we can do that for Korean football because, I mean, all three of us, we do this not for fame, not for money. We do this because we genuinely love Korean football, our players, our national team, our domestic league, and everyone who's watching is the exact same thing. We just love Korean football. And I hope, I pray, that we can see a miracle happen in Korean football soon.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for Mr. Jung Hae-sung to make a magic. But hiring a manager in 10 days, I don't think the magic will happen.
We'll pray, gentlemen. We got to get this one right. 2026 is coming. We'll see how it goes down, and Moondog and the Peeping Ballers will be here to break it all down. Thanks for watching.